Alright, what is going on, guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. Now today I've got for you guys is my review for the Season 1 premiere of the brand new DC Universe series, that being Doom Patrol. Before I get started, this will be a completely spoiler-free review, so it will just give you guys my general thoughts on the episode itself, the characters, a bit of the story, and just my overall thoughts on how the season started off and where it could go in the future. But with that said, guys, let's get into this review. First off, for those of you that may be unaware, Doom Patrol, while it is on the DC Universe streaming service, and these characters did show up on Titans, these shows are completely separate. I guess you could just kind of think of them as alternate Earths or alternate versions of the team. So the Doom Patrol on Titans is completely different than the one that we see within their own series. So I guess that means that they did not experience the events of that Titans episode, they don't know B-spoiler or anything, and this is just something to kind of keep in mind when you go into seeing this series. Personally, I did think it was kind of a bit of an odd decision to not make these shows connected, but I guess with the little bit of recasting that they did for, say, the Chief, and the fact that they want to keep these two stories separate, it kind of makes sense. Sorry I wasn't able to get this video up yesterday, but I was feeling pretty terrible, so I decided to wait until today to watch and review the premiere when I felt slightly less terrible. My voice still isn't 100%, so sorry about that, but I'm pushing through to bring you guys this review. Hey, that rhymed. Yeah, I'm definitely delusional. But back on track now, after finally seeing the first episode of Doom Patrol, I have to say it was, well, interesting to say the least. Going into the show, I wasn't really pulled in by any of the trailers or teasers or anything. I don't know, it just didn't really seem to grab my attention. But I still did want to keep an open mind on this series, and after the show got mostly positive reviews, I was like, okay, maybe it will be something pretty special, but for me at least, it just wasn't the case. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were definitely some redeeming qualities. I kind of get what they were going for here, like a messed up X-Men misfit superhero team. I understand that, but the execution just wasn't something I liked. I will say though, the story and the setup for everything going on, getting everyone's backstory and everything, was pretty nice. You learn a lot about all of these characters within the first episode, which was something I really enjoyed. I think Robot Man, Cliff Steele, and Crazy Jane with all of her wacky personalities were definitely the standout characters for me. Negative Man and Rita were also pretty good as well, and I definitely liked this version of the Chief better than the one that we had on Titans. You also get some nice Mr. Nobody, Alan Tudyk voiceover narration throughout the episode as well, which was another aspect of this show I really did enjoy. But other than that, the story was just kind of, I hate using this term, but just kind of meh to me. This isn't a spoiler, but unfortunately there was no Cyborg within the episode. He's probably the character that I'm the most excited for, but I do think we will be properly introduced to him within the next episode. Something I really didn't like was the fact that they did keep a lot of those edgy themes from Titans, a bunch of unnecessary F-bombs and everything, which is something I really do hate about these DC Universe shows. We get it, it's your service, you can be as edgy as you want, but when it doesn't really serve the plot, it gets pretty old pretty quick. As I did mention before, Alan Tudyk is the main villain, Mr. Nobody, and he's a very intriguing character that seems to have a history with the Chief, so that is something that I'm definitely excited to see more of. I do think that all of the actors did a great job in their roles with the material that they were given. Again, Cliff and Jane were easily the standouts for me, and I can't wait to see more of those two. I really did like the Robot Man kind of costume, suit, whatever they used to make him. I think that looks really cool. I think it's probably a mix of prosthetics and CGI, and I just think it looked really good on screen. Another unfortunate negative though, I guess you could say this episode was pretty slow. It was basically an hour long and there was little to no action. It's understandable because this was a pilot backstory episode, but I think there is potential there to have some really cool action sequences with everybody once they learn how to use their powers together. But I do have to say though, one of the things you really have to give this show credit for is the cinematography and production value. This show definitely has a much higher budget than Titans, and it really shows. There are some pretty amazing looking shots within this show, and I'm a sucker for great cinematography, so that's a huge plus for this series and something it definitely has over Titans. I also thought the humor was pretty great, a lot of dark sarcastic humor, but humor nonetheless. And speaking of dark, this show does keep with the darker tone of Titans, again making it kind of an edgy and brooding show, but with some jokes thrown in there mostly from Mr. Nobody's narration that keeps it level, so it never stays super dark for too long, which was a nice balancing thing. As for the pacing, like I said before, it was kind of a slow episode. It was basically an hour long and you could definitely feel it, unlike say some Marvel Netflix series, but I do think it was necessary in order to get all of the exposition out of the way, so the rest of the season can be a bit more straightforward. While on the subject of the Marvel Netflix shows, Doom Patrol's open is very reminiscent of something like the Daredevil or Punisher open, with that very cinematic opening credit sequence, easily one of the best parts of the show. Something else that I found pretty nice was the music. The show jumped around a lot in time, so it had some pretty great music in order to let you know what the time period was, so a nice touch there for sure. But speaking of jumping around in in time, no one ages, not even the chief, so that's pretty interesting. Not sure if it'll get explained or something, but that's just something weird I picked up on. I mean, obviously a robot man won't age or anything, but you know, all of the human characters like Jane and Rita, how do they stay so young? The world may never know. Probably just a part of their metahuman abilities, but again, something pretty interesting there. But like I said before, this show is very standalone, so you don't have to watch Titans to understand Doom Patrol. It is self-contained, and they do give you a lot of the backstory that you need to understand what is going on. I do wish these shows were a little more connected, but I guess that's just a creative decision by DC to keep these things separated, so we'll see how it all plays out. But with that said, guys, the Doom Patrol premiere was very interesting to say the least. I'm going to need a few more episodes to make a decision, but if you have a subscription to the DC Universe, I definitely suggest you go check it out and make a decision for yourself. If you're thinking about subscribing just for the series, I'd wait until a few more episodes drop just to be sure, but that's just me. I think this show, while far from perfect, it definitely has some really good redeeming qualities, and I'm sure it can only get better from here. Real quick at the end of the video here, don't worry, I am still going to be working on that Arrow video for the reveal at the end of the most recent episode. It's just because Doom Patrol came out and I've been feeling a little bit sick recently, I've decided to push that back a few days. I will hopefully get that out within the next week or so. The show doesn't come back till March, so I've definitely got some time, but yeah, don't worry, it should be out pretty soon. Just going to wait a little bit until my voice is back to full strength. But other than that, guys, I want to know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments below. What did you think of the Doom Patrol premiere? If you've seen it, how do you think it compares to Titans? And what are you most excited to see throughout the rest of the season? I want to know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments below. But until next time, guys, it's been Tazz, and I'll see you guys in the next video.